Hello. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the 3 most important things for young writers ever in the history of man. I'm going to count them backwards from 3 to 1. And that's the order of importance that I see them in. If you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments or fuck off. Number 3. The 3rd most important thing for any young writer ever, in my opinion. Make connections. Make connections with other authors, make connections with potential publishers, make connections with potential readers. Get active on social media and don't just post pictures. Go and find other people to follow. You are not an influencer yet. You might be one day, and that's a good goal to have. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I was mid-rant. You are not an influencer. You are not going to grow and your following, you're not going to make connections just by posting pictures and expecting people to follow you and like them. Same with YouTube. You can't expect to just be posting YouTube videos and hoping that people will subscribe. You've got to go out there and make connections with people because those connections will multiply. It's called the network effect. The more people you know, the more opportunity presents itself to you. So, 3rd most important thing on becoming an author for young writers, make connections. The 2nd most important thing for young writers when becoming an author is to learn iteratively. What learning iteratively means is learn in a 3-step cycle. The first step in that cycle is pick something to learn. And you've got to do this strategically because becoming an author entails a lot of learning. There is a fuck ton of things that you need to learn as a young writer. And you can enter a quagmire of only learning things half-assed. So what I suggest you do is make a list of everything you think you should learn and then prioritize and start with the most important thing. I did this, and the most important thing for me in my personal context was to learn how to outline and to learn process. And that involved me going and watching videos on outlining, going and working on my own outlining process and then going on to step 2 of the learning cycle. Step 2 in the iterative learning cycle is to implement. Learn is step 1, implement is step 2. So let's continue with my example of learning to outline and learning process. I watched what other people were doing, I read the articles, and then I started doing shit. I didn't continue to learn, I picked a time to stop, and I started implementing. And what this helps you do is take what you're learning from a theoretical point into an actual practical point in a way that you're going to start actually understanding what works for you as a young writer. Step 3 in the iterative learning cycle for young writers is reflection. So you picked something to learn strategically, you learned it, and then you implemented it so that you could generate understanding and practical implementation. And then the next step is to reflect on that process. So that reflection involves looking at both step 1 and step 2. Did you pick the right thing to learn? And did you implement it in a way that gave you the learnings in the way that you needed them the most? And if the answer was no, then you probably didn't learn the right thing or you didn't learn it enough. So go back through the cycle with the same thing to learn. But if the answers were yes, then pick something new to learn and start the process over. And lastly, the single most important thing in becoming an author is to finish books. Finish work, finish short stories, finish articles, finish books. Finish, because it's your product. And you are not an author until you have a book. You are not a salesman unless you have a product to sell. You are not a marketer unless you have something to create demand around. Finish books. It's the single most important thing. When it comes down to prioritizing what you have to do in your writing journey, the most important thing is to get words on paper so that you can edit them, so that you can get them critiqued, and so that you can get them in front of potential readers. Thanks for watching. If you disagree with anything, or if you think there are other more important things for becoming an author for young writers, please do let me know in the comments. And as always, hit subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I post new pictures daily with updates and quirky little quotes from the books that I'm writing.